The Iowa Hawkeyes should be thankful, grateful even, for the Iowa State Cyclones. That's right. The team from Ames is keeping the Hawks in relevance, and we're talking about it today on Locked On Cyclones.
You are Locked On Cyclones, your daily podcast on the Iowa State Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to you for being here every day and making this your first watch or listen of the day. I appreciate it more than you know. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcasting platform, be sure to hit subscribe so we can prove once and for all that it is in fact a Cyclone state, a topic that is going to be very prevalent in today's program as we kick it off talking about the CyHawk game. Yep, it just got even bigger. I know it probably didn't feel like it could, but it did. We're going to talk about that first. Then we're going to talk about the college football playoff. I know, not super shocking at this point. There's constantly news that's coming out about it. A few quotes that I want to highlight, break that down a little bit. That could be fun. Then finally, we're going to round out today's episode with some Iowa State recruiting and Michigan State working their way back into the Iowa State bubble. Not exactly great news, I'm not going to lie, but there is a silver lining there. So stick around to find out what that is. Before we get that far, though, this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I am so fired up to get to talk about the CyHawk game. Okay, and I know you could probably sense it a little bit. I got like the goosebumps just even a little bit thinking about it. Okay, and we'll talk more about why I think that is here in just a second. But I want to say, we've talked a lot about this Farmageddon game. Iowa State, Kansas State, in Ireland, week 0, conference matchup. Everyone's going to be watching. I mean, everyone. All the football fans will be tuning into this game. This is an enormous game. And I think it's going to have huge, try to get something right there. Huge complications for both teams. Not only Iowa State, but also Kansas State. I think both of these teams have a real shot to be in it at the end. And this game, it's going to go either way. Someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. So that's why we talked so much about it. We have Farmageddon Fridays. We had that 3 kind of episode special where we broke it down. We'll probably do something like that again because it's week 0. We got to talk about it. But guess what? The CyHawk game, it's like second to none. I mean, there is nothing like it. It really isn't. It's the top of the top. To me, it's like okay, it's football. Like we're going. And I think part of that too is because it's like usually Iowa State's kind of first big game. Obviously, Iowa in the Big Ten, not playing conference games usually before that game. So it's kind of like, all right, we got real football. You get that little sniff of chill in the air. It's a feeling unlike any other, and so it does feel like it's like this huge game, and it is in Iowa. I'm not trying to downplay it at all because if anything, I'm trying to play it up. Like this is one of my favorite games of the year. I get so fired up for the CyHawk game every year, but it's even bigger this year because Big Noon Kickoff is coming to Ames to cover this one. Yeah, that's right. It's not College Game Day. It's Big Noon Kickoff, which is just as big from what I've heard. Maybe even bigger because they have big in the name. So it's worth at least considering there. Yeah, the Hawkeyes coming to town. So is Big Noon Kickoff. Going to be huge for the Cyclones here. And I was actually in college the last time College Game Day came to town. And just to kind of talk about that for a second, I mean, we all know what the week leading up to the CyHawk game is like. I mean, we all know what it's like in Iowa City, what it's like in Ames, all the posts on social media of all the houses, and I don't need to get too far into it, but everyone gets fired up. I mean, everyone and their mom, and then if they've got some sort of grandkid, the kid's wearing a onesie of the school that the family supports. Like, everyone shows out for the CyHawk game. And that's what it is. And that's what makes the rivalry so great. I mean, I'm pumped up talking about it, just thinking about it. Think about that. I mentioned the sniff of the chill in the air. It's usually right around that time of the year. September 6th, I believe, is the date for this year. You get that, it's football season, baby. Turn on the TV, Cardinal and gold versus black and gold, Kinnick or Jack Trice, you pick your stadium, doesn't matter. The whole state of Iowa is buzzing. And now with Big Noon Kickoff, it's only going to be even bigger because I know when College Game Day came to town, to Ames, mind you, not going to Kinnick, coming to Ames, everyone in Ames was fired up. There's the original level of it's CyHawk week. We got it. Like this is the thing. This is what we're doing. But also there's this element of like, hey, are you going out at 4 a.m.? Oh, I think I'm actually gonna camp over the night before. Like there's a secondary element of buzz that comes to Ames, and everyone's just like so fired up. I remember the Home Depot hats or the helmets, and it's like this whole everyone's fired up. There's more signs. The game is even more packed. It's second to none. Like the atmosphere the Cyhawk game provides, and I'm gonna say second to none a lot. Probably. I probably said it too many times already. But I don't know if is there another it's first? Is that better? Maybe switch it up a little bit. It's like the best thing in the entire world. Now to go back to what I said, Ames keeping the Hawkeyes in relevance, this kickoff this day, today's show. There is an element of truth to that, I feel like. Obviously, I believe, unless things go completely haywire, Iowa State will be ranked in this game, and who knows, Iowa could sneak in to the top 25, but I think it'll be Iowa State as the lone ranked team in this one. Excuse me. But that being said, I pulled up, every game between Iowa and Iowa State. And yes, it is leaning in Iowa's favor. I understand that. I'm gonna read every comment talking about how Iowa is winning this CyHawk series and yada yada yada. Well, 1935 to 1976, no games were played, and from what I know, Iowa wasn't very good then, so we don't need to dive into that. But I went from the year 2000, and I was only leading 14-10 in these last 25 years or so, and that doesn't even count the two games that Iowa State won in 1998 and 1999. So cutting it off at 2000 actually doesn't help Iowa State in that regard. And I go to that number because, now we're in like the year 2000. There's not a 1 at the beginning of the year anymore. But also, these last 25 years or so have been pretty back and forth. Iowa, technically won 5 games in a row from 2016 to 2021, but there was no game in 2020. And I feel pretty confident saying that Iowa State would have won that game, but also it's a CyHawk game. And this is what I say about every rivalry game ever. You never know who's going to win because it's just the atmosphere is so charged. You never know what's going to happen. Like the better team might just might be the rivalry game. They lose that game and then they go on to win every other game. And it was like, well, that's kind of like what 2022 was a little bit in some senses, a little bit. But from 2020, from 2000, 14-10 is in the favor of Iowa. Iowa with that 5-game quote unquote win streak. Iowa State had the 5-game win streak if you go back to 1998 to 2002. But in the last 4 years, since COVID, since the pandemic, it's been every other year. And from 2007 to 2015, and you could take it back even further, but Iowa they won 3 in a row, but Iowa State won 4. Not in a row, but won 4 of those. You could take it even back even further. What I'm saying here is this rivalry goes back and forth, and it's so exciting. And for Big Noon Kickoff to come to Ames, I think that's huge for the program. It shows where Iowa State's at as far as football goes, kind of the level of respect, because they don't just go anywhere, right? Like there's hundreds of games across the country all the time, and I don't know technically if they get second pick to ESPN or not, or if it's a mark, kind of like which games what they have control over. I don't know what the case is, to be honest, but I just know that there's going to be like this secondary element of just energy coming to Ames. And this game has just got a lot better. It just got a lot more exciting. It's just going to bring a secondary element to this. That's going to be awesome. So to really round out that comment of Iowa State keeping Iowa in relevance, I think that's legit. Obviously on national TV now, shout out, congrats to the Hawkeyes. You can say thank you to the nearest Cyclone fan you have around you. Say, hey, shout out to you guys. You guys are really good this year. We're glad to be on Big Noon Kickoff because of you. Like that's what the case is here. Like if we're being legit, it's a Cyclone state. That's what it is, especially because you hit subscribe down below. I mean, like you're doing your part. The Cyclones on the field are doing their part. It's a great time to be a Cyclone, especially with Big Noon Kickoff coming to town. But this is early in the season. We got to talk a little bit about college football playoff coming up because that's going to be big. Like we don't know exactly what's going to look like down the road. Let's talk about it coming up right after this. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Yikes. Now I budget smarter and save more. And my favorite feature personally is that managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. You're here with Locked On Cyclones, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I just saw you hit that subscribe button. Shout out to you. Let's talk in terms of college football playoff here. We've talked CyHawk game, which I got really jazzed up for. It's hard not to be completely honest. The goosebumps have since gone away because now we're talking about the college football playoff. And a lot of this comes down to the SEC conversations that were being had, right? We talked about it a lot last week. This is something that is kind of in limbo. And the reason we were talking so much about the SEC conversations that were being had is because the SEC is one of those bodies that is going to make, the decision, right? It's the SEC and the Big Ten that are kind of in charge here. And now allegedly they have to listen to the ACC and the Big 12 and take them into consideration, all of that. And to me, it's just like, well, how can you really quantify that? Like, how can we really prove that they didn't just listen and say, okay, glad you said something. Now we're going to go with this. I don't know if you can really prove that. Nonetheless, that's why we're talking about this with the SEC, because it seems like they're going to kind of be in control. And it seems like they're kind of on like the Big Ten's team here, which is why it's odd. Oh, it's not odd, but it's not great that they're the ones making the decisions. There's two that seem to be like kind of on the same side here. And the really pivotal thing here is the SEC going to 9 conference games. That's really where it lies. Some interesting reports are coming out about this whole situation. And I guess for one more piece of context here, the difference that we're looking at is a model of 4-4-2-2-1. These are all automatic qualifiers. So 4 qualifiers automatic for the SEC and the Big Ten, 2 qualifiers automatic for the Big 12 and the ACC, and then 1 qualifier for a non-Power 4 conference team. And then obviously if the Notre Dame team was in the top 16, they would qualify as well, but they're not a part of that number model per se. So a large number of teams automatically qualifying the playoff. The other proposed model proposed by the Big 12 and the ACC is the 5+11 model, where basically 1 at-large bid from each conference plus 1 non-Power 5 or Power 4 conference automatic bid, right? So that would be like Boise State. Then you got 11 at-large bids. Now, we've talked about why I think that this is a great idea. I think that it's just more fair. There's a conversation around, does this bring the Big 12 enough money? I did see, I believe it was I can't remember if it was when I was talking with Christian Rao last Friday, but I think it was Greg Wilson, shout out, that said it actually makes kind of better sense. You wouldn't want, a automatic qualifier from the Big 12 to get in and just get smoked. I agree with that. I think it's a great idea to let the teams that deserve to get in, get in. I think that's what it's all about. You earn your way in. Now you get an automatic qualifier as well, but at least it's like all across the board. It's even, and it's largely at-large bids. I think that makes the most sense to me. Now there is conversation though about this 5+11 versus 4-4-2-2-1, because the SEC probably won't go with the 5+11, because that means that they won't, if they don't have more automatic bids, they won't go to 9 conference games. And they won't go to 9. The reason they want to go to 9 conference games is because that's going to make them more money, in conjunction with, if you go to 4-4-2-2-1, which those two are kind of tied together, the 4-4-2-2-1 plus the 9th conference game, they can start to make deals with the Big Ten and scheduling agreements. And the 4-4-2-2-1 model would allow them to do play-in games, which would even bring more revenue to the situation. Now, the SEC coaches don't necessarily want that. They think that it's kind of like too many games, basically. And we've been talking about the SEC kind of the uppers, right? Like the ADs, the super guys at the top, not the coaches. So now with the coaches kind of being like, yeah, I don't know if we're so invested in this extra game model. Excuse me. But the other point on that is that you have to potentially give up your season if you're the 3, right? So if there's 4 automatic qualifiers and you're the 3 in the SEC, this is kind of what is being proposed, what could happen. It would be 3, 6, and 4, 5 square off. So if you finish 3rd in the SEC, you could be in a winner take all game to get to the playoff. I don't think coaches are a big fan of that either. Now there's all this conversation going on, and I'm kind of talking about all of this to get you up to speed, really to get to the point of there's this potential of the SEC and the Big Ten kind of separating from the rest of the NCAA, I guess, from the Big 12 and the ACC. It's something that's been talked about before. And I don't know how really close we are to that. I believe I've seen Greg Sankey say, like, I don't know how we could do that, but it seems like maybe it's something that they could do. Nonetheless, the reason I bring that up is because if they were to split off, there's this quote right here that just irked me. It says, this is from Yahoo Sports. Some SEC administrators here have wondered aloud this week if an SEC Big Ten only playoff is the right path. Quote, there would be no argument that the winner is the national champion, right? Asked one high-level SEC school official. Well, I mean, it depends on, I guess, your definition of argument, winner, national champion, and I guess maybe the word no. Those are the words that would probably be under scrutiny as far as definition goes, because that's not true at all. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. No, that would not mean that they're the national champion. I'm not saying that the SEC has to, or any team from the SEC or the Big Ten has to play every single school to prove that they're the national champion. I'm not saying that they need to play Boise State, UNLV, Kennesaw State, Ball State, all whatever. They don't need to play everybody to prove that they're national champion. But you just can't leave out the Big 12 and the ACC, the other 2 power conferences. I'm sorry. Has a Big 12 school ever won a national title? I'm sorry. Has an ACC school ever won a national title? Oh, so it can be done. Oh, so then why would you automatically be the national champion? That's what I don't understand here. Now, granted, is it always a Big 12 team? Is it always an ACC team? No, I understand that. And I can already read the comments. I can already see them. I got my eyes closed. I'm reading them on the back of my eyelids. When was the last time it wasn't Texas? Or I get it. But it's happened before. They were in the Big 12. What about the ACC? What about Clemson? It's not what it used to be, but it's not impossible either. I think that's, I don't agree with that at all. I don't think that's even fair one little bit. I just don't see how that's even, like, that's just such a disconnected comment to me to make. Like, well, we're clearly better, us SEC and Big Ten conferences. So if we split off and we play, well, it's pretty clear we would be national champions then, right? You would be the winner of the SEC Big Ten. That's what it would be. You wouldn't be the national champion, though. And like, what I'm trying to say here is it doesn't have to be every team. You don't have to play all these tiny little schools to prove that you're the best. But it's the power 4. So then it's the power 2. So then if you really, we got like a little bit of time here before we split off and talk about Iowa State recruiting. You want to go down the rabbit hole then. If all of a sudden it's just national champion, SEC, Big Ten, well, now the SEC and the Big Ten are just going to be all 4 split into just the 2, right? That's what would happen. All of the Big 12 and the ACC schools would say, well, we don't want to be in this league that's like somehow now kind of the new college level, while the SEC and the Big Ten are like closer to pro. And we're not national champions because we're on this different level. Like, let's just leave these 2 conferences and move into the SEC or the Big Ten. Now there's going to be an argument of who gets in, right? But I think that's what we're heading towards, is like a power 2. And then there's like divisions, and maybe we move to a premier soccer league model where we've got relegations and whatnot. I think it'd be really interesting. I know a lot of people have proposed that model. Let me know if you think that's cool down below. But I don't like where that's going. I don't like that comment. I don't think that's fair at all. I think it's well within the Big 12 and the ACC's right to at least have a chance. And if the SEC and the Big Ten were to split off and just say, well, we're going to be national champions, well, then why don't the Big 12 and the ACC have a tournament and say, well, we're national champions? Well, then what? Now we've got an arms race. Like, we got is it Big 12 ACC champion versus SEC Big 10 champion? Like, is that how this is going to play out? Because we know, too, that a lot of it's matchups. So I just didn't love that comment. I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense. Let me know what you think down below. I thought that was way out of pocket. Nonetheless, let's talk about some Iowa State recruiting coming up right after this. Iowa State recruiting has been in kind of the hot seat a little bit this off season. You're here with Locked On Cyclones, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Nick Marvitz. I have not been persuaded to go to a different podcast, so that's pretty cool. I guess I'm still here, but there are some big names that Iowa State has, coming out of this 2026 class that we've talked about. Jet Tamala being one. His visit to Alabama. I haven't seen any news on whether he's flipped or not. I still believe that Iowa State can keep him. I read all the Alabama comments, and I get it, but also I do think there is definitely something there. I'm very, very high on that situation. I'm not too worried about it. It's obviously not great, but I don't think it'll be the end of the world. Then we talked about a month ago about Michigan State trying to steal Daniel Howard, 2026 defensive lineman. Another one that I think Iowa State will still retain, but it's worth mentioning that Michigan State offered. And I will say, if you're still listening, I do apologize. We nothing up yesterday, major technical difficulties, but I talked about Braden Thomas at the time of recording yesterday had just been offered or had visited Michigan State, and it was a conversation of would he kind of flip or not. Since yesterday, he has decided to flip over to Michigan State. Braden Thomas, 2026 three-star safety, is now switching over his commitment to Michigan State. Now, I will say this: I don't know. I guess I did. Maybe should have looked this up. But is there a possibility he flips back? Maybe he's doing the whole hat swap, but it's like a verbal commitment type of deal. That'd be pretty sweet. We would like to have Braden Thomas at Iowa State. That's for sure. Tag him down below. Tag him on Twitter. Clip this. Braden Thomas, we want you in Ames. Bring him home. Nonetheless, obviously we hope he's living his best life, even if it is with Michigan State. I believe we now only have one safety in the 2026 class. Iowa State will still be fine as far as the 2026 class goes. A lot of big names there. But what I wanted to say on this was, it was more of a conversation yesterday when it was more of a target. But I still think it reigns true. Iowa State is evidence that Iowa State is moving up. Now, I can see why you wouldn't necessarily agree because you're like, well, Iowa State just got a great commit stolen from them. Well, the argument is, first off, he committed to Iowa State, which is good news. But also, I went kind of down this hypothetical rabbit hole last time I was thinking about this. What if, and I'm not saying that I want to preface this, I'm not saying that this is what happened. Okay. I know that everyone in the recruiting departments works very, very hard at every single school, and so I'm not saying that this is what happened, but hypothetically, let's just play around a little bit here and say, what if Michigan State was, they're doing their recruiting and Iowa State's doing their recruiting, and then Braden Thomas, commits to Iowa State, and then Michigan State's like, well, maybe they were like, oh, I wasn't super high on his tape the first time, but let's take another look at it, or oh, I never heard of that guy. Let's go look at him, and then they see, okay, this guy's a dude. This guy's a legit player. Let's send him up here, get him in the building. Let's talk to him, see if we can get him on our team. Especially now with the possibility roster limits are going to be even smaller. I guess we don't know for sure exactly what anything looks like. I don't believe anything's been finalized, but it seems like it's trending that way where smaller roster limits. So every commit now is kind of like even more valuable, if you will. That sounds wrong, but like just as far as percentage of the roster, it's higher. And so what I'm saying here is that Iowa State being better at football is now recruiting better recruits, right? That's just kind of the evolution of how things work. The better you get, the more desirable you become, and the more high level players that want to play at your university or at your school for your team, whatever the case, however you want to phrase it. And so I believe that this is a good sign, even though it doesn't look great, because now there are Big Ten schools and SEC schools, looking at Jet Tamala in Alabama, that are competing for guys that have committed to Iowa State. Now, even if you completely throw out the hypothetical that I just threw out there, which is a wild hypothetical, and I completely understand that, even if you completely throw that out, you can't ignore the fact that Big Ten and Michigan State and SEC in Alabama are trying to snag players that Iowa State has. So you're telling me those are Big Ten and SEC level players who are committing to Iowa State, right? That's what this is. Like, by the transitive property we've gotten there. Circle the answer, hand it to the teacher, give me an A+. So let's move on to the next assignment. That's what we're looking at here, right? So that to me seems like Iowa State is moving up, where we're looking at, okay, Iowa State now, got the 10. Well, actually, we didn't actually get 10 wins. We got 11. So we're still without a 10-win program, but we got even better. So 11 wins for the first time in program history, and trending up. And Matt Campbell and everything that he's said kind of through this whole transfer portal situation, the words that he says matter. Like, he doesn't just say things, and the actions he makes also matter. And also the coaching staff around everyone at Iowa State, obviously Mauser turning some big heads there. Noah Pauly, another guy that I'm super excited about. Clanton, like the whole staff. Okay, I'm just to name a few. The whole situation in Ames is very desirable. Obviously, the culture. Obviously, you're not just a number, but also the production on the field. And now you're looking at more Cyclones probably than ever. I guess I haven't done the stats on this, but if it's not than ever, maybe it's even better. But a lot of Cyclones in the NFL right now, and a lot of them playing really well too. Brock Purdy, obviously the biggest name, but I do think that Higgins and Knoll are going to make a huge difference in Houston. We'll see. Breece Hall, dog, right? And every time their highlights get played at Jack Trice, the place goes bananas because everyone remembers what they did at Iowa State, and everyone knows what they're doing now. It's kind of like Tyrese Halliburton with the Pacers, the NBA Finals right now. Not everybody, but a lot of people are Pacers fans because of Tyrese Halliburton. Like these Cyclone fans, like, oh, I'll root for the Pacers because of Tyrese. Kind of the same thing. Like, oh, I'll root for the Jets because they got Lazard and they've got Breece Hall and whatever. I believe Will McDonald maybe was on that team. I can't remember for sure. But nonetheless, that's kind of what we're looking at here is this development on top of the culture, on top of the actual production on the field, as far as 11 wins last season in the Big 12 championship for the second time since 2020, I believe is what it was. So that's the good news. It's not great that Braden Thomas flipped over, and like I said, clip it, throw it on Twitter, tag him. You tag me too, Nick_Marv, and we could try to flip him back. I don't even know if that's possible. I guess I was never recruited in high school, but it's fine. Like, we want him on the team, but I think that more than if you focus in on one guy, more than that, this is where Iowa State's at now. We are becoming a desirable location for more reasons than one. We're getting Big Ten and SEC level talent in the building, committed. Yes, there's a possibility that they're going to flip. I get it. I understand, sort of. Like, it's not quite as sustained as maybe some other programs. I don't think that matters, though. I think you look at the projection of where Iowa State is right now and where they're going to be. And you want to talk about, I'll throw this in here at the end. You want to talk about the Big 12 being this weak conference, then come to Iowa State. Like, we'll just trample everybody. That's what I see. I look into the crystal ball over the next 5 years, and I just see 5 Big 12 titles. That's what I see. Yeah, it's worth at least looking at, in my opinion. Nonetheless, it's good news. It's good news for the Cyclones, I believe, in the future. Good news is if you hit that subscribe button, it's completely free. And you're helping me prove that it is, in fact, a Cyclone state. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to this point in the episode. Be sure to come back tomorrow. We'll be breaking down even more. I saw some news break today. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Stick around and find out what it is. Until next time, Cyclone fans.